All righty. Good evening, baseball fans. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's the newly technologically advanced Dalton Brown with the mic in front of it. It's got lights and everything.
Mic check, mic check.
Yeah. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It's great to have you here on the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast, exclusively on the Grid Network. We have plenty of stuff to go over today. Dalton, how are we feeling, my friend? Donning the Blue Jays cap, which, upsets me a little bit, but, it's all right.
Listen, if the Yankees were on a gazillion game win streak, I'd probably wear their hat too.
That's true.
But they're not. So
They're not. But like I said, plenty of stuff to touch on today. All-Star break is coming up soon. So we'll touch on that. We'll talk about SNUBS, who got snubbed from the National League and the American League. We'll touch on both sides there. Players that we're happiest to see make the All-Star team this year. We'll touch on that as well. We have some participants that we know of in the Home Run Derby. We'll make some predictions with that, what we're excited to see. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Are we really buying speaking of the Blue Jays, by the way, are we really buying them as legitimate contenders in the American League? We'll touch on that a little bit later as well, given how hot they've played. And I've got plenty of stuff to say on my New York Yankees. We'll, sort of start with that. But Dalton, you are the defending champs, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So as much as we cater to our own teams, Dalton, you can go first, as you have for all of this year. So take it away.
Yeah, so the Dodgers are playing the worst baseball they've played since 1932 right now.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Which is a really over dramatic way of describing what they're doing. But the reason I'm saying that is the Dodgers have lost 4 in a row. It's their largest run differential in the negative over a 4-game stretch since 1932. Dodgers are minus 31 in their last 4 games. Much of that coming from an 18-1 loss on Friday to the Houston Astros, who, much to the chagrin of Dodger fans, came into Chavez Ravine and swept us. So wow. That was no fun for anyone. Did not enjoy it one bit. And then we went to Milwaukee last night, and Yamamoto just got lit up and didn't get out of the first inning. So, look, we talk a lot on this show about how it's a long season and about how you never want to get too high or too low. And this is one of those stretches for the Dodgers where it feels like there's a little bit of that looking forward to the All-Star break creeping in, where they got out to about a 9-game lead in the division, and the Astros came in red hot and feeling like they had something to prove. The Dodgers seemingly came into that series resting on their laurels a bit. And, Dodgers got humbled. I think it was needed and good. So, it's not good to lose 3 games in a row and get blown out. But Dodgers are still have a comfortable lead in the division. I'm not terribly concerned in the long run, but stretches like that are not fun, especially when it's coupled with, some sloppy defense and some poor at-bats. So, but all in all, things I'm excited about. Shohei Ohtani looks absolutely disgusting on the mound. I think they're very, very slowly going to build him up, which I've kind of given my opinion on that in the past. I don't love the way they're approaching it, but it's how they're approaching it. Tyler Glasnow starts tomorrow. Very excited about that. Very interested to see what version we get of Alexis Diaz when we call him up. He is activated as of tonight. At Milwaukee, at San Francisco to round out the first half, come out of the break with Milwaukee and the Twins coming to town next week.
Right.
Fun little part of the schedule. There's not a ton for me to be freaking out about. I do have one other Dodger comment that I'll get to when we talk about the All-Star game with regards to a player that I think should be there.
I know exactly where you're going.
Of course, because I've already talked about it. Yep. But that's all I got, man. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not in panic mode with the Dodgers at all. I think they will be fine. They're winning right now. They're up 1-0 against the Brewers. And again, these bad stretches of baseball certainly happen over the course of the year. But like I said, as the Dodgers get healthier, as their pitching certainly gets healthier, as you mentioned, Glasnow's coming back tomorrow. I think that there's there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to this little dark period that in Dodger baseball right now. Let's move to, by the way, let's move to the New York Yankees, which is unfortunately my team that I'm currently a fan of. Tristan,
Currently,
the boys the boys are back. The boys are back. I appreciate that. And the baseball purist in the comment section said respectfully, the Yankees suck. And yes, they certainly do. The Yankees definitely suck right now. Listen, I've had several arguments with Met fans over the weekend, and as you can see, that has taken a toll on me emotionally. And it's just not, it's not good for the brain to have too many conversations with Met fans. I have to throw a jab in every once in a while, right? But
I agree.
yeah, so it is. It's been quite the week for the Yankees. They have been absolutely dreadful, especially for the past week. And they haven't even really been good since like early June. Like we're getting to a point now where like I'm genuinely worried that the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't really exist. Like it is really to the point where like I'm getting genuinely concerned. I've made my opinions about where the Yankees are organizationally on this show several different times. I there is a legitimate issue, and it is on full display, right? Because it's happened 3 years in a row now. Okay. And last year making it to the World Series, that's obviously a big thing. But there is a real deep-rooted organizational issue with how the Yankees develop position players. Very simply. Okay. The Yankees have done, and I will say this point blank, I genuinely believe that the roadmap that the Yankees have kind of laid out for themselves as a franchise, as far as roster construction, is damn near the best in baseball. I genuinely believe that. They are littered. The Yankee lineup is dating back to last year, 2 years ago, whatever, was littered with all-stars or top-end prospects all over the field. And like I've said, I've made this case before. I made the same case probably at this point last year. But we have a top 100 prospect catcher. We have a top 3 prospect shortstop. Last year, we had a top 3 overall prospect second baseman. And none of these guys are working out. They're not working out. Like, I don't even know if it's like an arguable take anymore. Anthony Volpe might just be a bust. Like, he's just not that good. He's not that good. He's had his stretches, yeah. And is he fast? But like, it's been like we've got 3 years now of him. If he was going to break out, he'd have done it already. Like I think he's just done. Like, I think this is just who he is. So there's a real issue. And like I said, Anthony Volpe was not the number 90 prospect on Baseball America. Like, no, Anthony Volpe was a top 5 prospect in the whole game. Like, and I get it, Dalton. Like, sometimes those guys don't work out. Sometimes they don't. It's real. But I would say a decent amount of the time, they come up to be serviceable, at the very least, major league players. Gleyber Torres is the same thing. Gleyber Torres was a top 3 prospect in the sport. Top 3 prospect in the sport. And at no point in his Yankee career did we see that. And it only took him, by the way, going to the Tigers for him to be a borderline all-star. Like, do you not see what the issue is here? I think the Yankees can develop pitching. I do. They've done a good job with that. Clark Schmidt, Luis Heel. I think they can develop pitching. Michael King is a good example. Like, they can develop pitchers. They can. Position players, they're lost. They're lost at the big league level. I make this argument all the time. Aaron Judge needed to go outside of the organization to get to the level of which he's playing at now. He needed to go outside of Yankee development. And the Yankees are now profiting off of that. Like, this is, like, I'm not pressing the panic button. I'm not. Because, again, it's July. I'm not freaking out. Like, we're not in late August, early September, where we're like, okay, like, things are starting to look bad, and now it's a pretty steep hill to climb. I'm not there yet, but this is getting pretty damn close to, like, okay, Clark Schmidt's going to get Tommy John. Garrett Cole's out for the year. Like, we don't even have the reinforcements in pitching to shield what is going on offensively lately. Like, we're just not getting there. And by the way, the pitching staff hasn't been great either. Max Fried has kind of taken a step back over the past couple of weeks. Rodon just got lit up at Citi Field. Like, this is not something that's, like, there's a real issue here, Dalton, and I've said it for years. The Yankees have a real problem developing positional player talent, and that's why they're in the position they're in now.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really argue with any of that. I think I will say this. I think the macro issue and the micro issue are a little bit different from one another. Meaning, like, if you actually look, like, since June 1st, the Yankees are like 100, like 110 OPS plus. Like, they've been okay enough offensively that you should be able to win some games. The problem in the short term is their pitching has been like 8th worst in baseball since June 1st.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of expected ERA, or excuse me, in terms of FIP. So they just haven't. The problem with the Yankees right now is, I think, number one, on the pitching side, you can excuse it a little bit because they're just so beat up, right? Garrett Cole's out, Clark Schmidt's out. I mean, Max Fried and Rodon better stay healthy and better carry them, because otherwise this season could end up being a lost one at some point. I imagine they're going to be pretty active at the deadline, for one. But to go back to your macro point, like from a hitting perspective, we talked about it last year back in June when the Dodgers played the Yankees in the regular season, that when you look at that lineup, because they didn't have Soto that weekend.
Right.
And I remember
right.
I came out of that weekend and I was like, man, outside of Judge and Soto, there's not much there that strikes fear. Right. And I think they've had a couple guys that, like, maybe started to strike fear into you a little bit, right? Guys like Austin Wells, maybe Volpe for like short stretches. But otherwise, there's not a lot there that you look at and you go, oh, the Yankees are different, right? You look at it and you go, it's solid, right? But I think the reality is that a lot of these contributors for them are guys who are going to go hot and cold. Like Cody Bellinger is going to get hot and he's going to go cold. That's just what he does. Like, yeah. I can tell you that from watching him, right?
And he's been, by the way, Bellinger's been fairly solid for a majority. Like, he got off to a really rough start, but ever since then, he's been fairly consistent and outstanding defensively.
He's a good ball player. Like, don't get me wrong, he's good. He's a good ball player, right? But I think when you're talking, when I'll put it this way, and I don't mean to like rub salt in the wound, but when you compare lineup wise the Yankees to the Dodgers, there's a certain like depth to it, right?
Oh yeah.
That I think the Yankees lack right now, and I think they can't handle much more from an injury perspective. Now, I'm not sounding huge alarms with the Yankees. Like, if you ask me who's going to win the AL East, I'm still picking the Yankees. But I'll put it this way: I don't think they're the best team in the AL anymore. Like, I think they're either second behind the Astros, or maybe third behind the Astros and the Tigers, depending on the day. Yeah. But, look, they're going to be active at the deadline. We know that. I think this team's going to look a lot different come October than they do now because, frankly, after losing in the World Series last year, I think there's a hunger to prove that, like, hey, there's still a lot here. But yeah, I don't really know what else to add with them. I mean, I think they're hitting the doldrums kind of like the Dodgers are, but the problem is they didn't have as big of a cushion to sit on, and it makes the shortcomings of guys like Volpe really hard to watch.
Yeah, well, he's been brutally awful. Paul Goldschmidt it's been rough for him for about 2.5 weeks. So like he's kind of regressed back towards the mean a little bit, which I think a lot of people expected as well. And don't get me wrong. Like I still think that Goldschmidt is turning out to have a pretty solid year, but you didn't expect him to hit 340 for the rest of the, like, it just wasn't going to happen. He was going to come back down. There's just a real, like, I just have such a real concern that this regime of the Yankee organization is, it's not even that I think that they're bad or they don't care about winning or any of that, because I don't think any of those things, but I do genuinely believe that the methods in which they try to develop players simply isn't working. It's not working, right? You look around the league, right? I mean, you like guys, like teams like, and forget about like the Rays and all that, like forget about them. But like teams like the Reds and the Brewers and the like there are teams that just pull guys from nothing and they become legitimate major league contributors. And then their top prospects are shoo-ins. The Yankees don't do that. They get underwhelmed by, I don't know if it's talent evaluation. I don't know if it's talent development. It's something along the lines, or maybe it's both. There's something in that system that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So that's my Jesus.
I mean, that being said, to pull it back to the present moment, they're going to win the AL East. I still think so. Do you?
Today, I'll say yes. I think my answer could change in like 2 weeks. Like, I think after the All-Star break, like if we get past the All-Star break, we're a week past the All-Star break and they're still playing subpar baseball, I think my tone changes, because like there's still some hope in the fact that, all right, the All-Star break's coming up. It's a factory reset. Everybody's going to be like, everybody gets some days off, whatever. And you come back, different energy in the clubhouse. Everybody's gone to see their family for a few days. Like, it's a different sort of thing. If they still come back from the All-Star break and they still are playing like garbage, then I don't know if it's their division anymore.
I'm going to push you to the trade deadline. Because
okay. You think of it, okay.
Because I think we need to have this conversation on like August 2nd or whatever the Monday is after the trade deadline. Because let's be honest, even if they don't make up any ground between now and then, if they go out and get a premier arm and a premier bat, it's going to be hard not to feel good about them, even if they continue to tread water for a bit, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, if they find a way to add Eugenio Suarez to their lineup, which I know that they want to do,
yeah,
then okay, like that certainly makes the lineup way, way, way better. And that helps a lot of different things. And again, you'll get Stanton back to a reasonable form towards the end of the year. And, like all of this stuff is subject to, and Jason Dominguez has been playing his ass off for the last month. So like, it's not like it's all been negative. There has been some positives, but it's a tough scene right now. So hopefully, by the way, that makes all of my Met fan friends happy, because they were just like, you got to keep the same energy with the Yankees. I'm like, I always, Dalton, you know this more than anybody, because I talk more baseball with you than anybody else in my life. I think I'm genuinely hard on the Yankees. I am. I do. I genuinely think I'm hard on the Yankees. Oh, come on. I'm hard on the Yankees.
I can't think. Okay, so I'll say on a week-to-week basis, you're hard on the Yankees. Sure. When it comes time to make predictions, though.
Oh, hell no.
Well, that's the only caveat I'll give to that.
That's true. That is true. Certainly a homer in that respect. Okay. Before we move on, let's give you a quick score update. The Yankees and Mariners right now, they're delayed in the fourth. They're still scoreless here in the Bronx. The weather here in New York has been absolutely awful today. Like, it is muggy and rainy and 90 degrees. It's just the worst. Orioles right now up on the Mets in Baltimore. That's a 1-0 game here in the bottom of the fifth. Rays and Tigers, they're tied at 2 in Detroit. They're in the top of the 7th. The Marlins, the red hot Miami Marlins, are up 7-1 on the Reds in Cincinnati. That's in the bottom of the 4th. Rockies and Red Sox scoreless in the bottom of the 5th. That's in Boston. Blue Jays, by the way, the score update's going to take a while because this is a Tuesday. It's not a Monday where all the games are limited. This is a Tuesday. We got like a full slate today. Blue Jays on top of the White Sox right now, 1-0. That is in Chicago. That's in the top of the 3rd. Twins with a 2-0 lead over the Cubs. That's in Minnesota. That's bottom of the 3rd as well. Heading into the 4th, the Royals have a 1-0 lead over Pittsburgh. That's in Kansas City. The Dodgers with a 1-0 lead over the Brewers in Milwaukee. That's heading into the bottom of the 3rd. The Guardians have a 2-0 lead over the Astros in Houston. That's in the top of the 1st. Nationals and Cardinals are delayed at the moment. And then we've got a bunch of games on the West Coast. Rangers and Angels. That is Nathan Eovaldi and Jose Soriano. That's in Anaheim. That's later at 9:30. Diamondbacks and Padres at 9:40. That's in San Diego. Merrill Kelly and Nick Pivetta. Phillies and Giants in San Francisco. Taijuan Walker and Robbie Ray on the bump for that. And then later tonight, it's the Braves and the Athletics. Jeffrey Springs and Didier Fuentes on the bump for that one for Atlanta. But so that is in Sacramento. Again, we'll update you more on scores a little bit later, but let's kind of segue from the Yankee discussion to the Blue Jays discussion because it's the American League East has certainly become interesting now. The Blue Jays have a 3.5 game lead in first place at the moment over the Yankees. 4 games over the Tampa Bay Rays. They sit at 53-38. They have been red hot. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They have a 9-game win streak, which is bizarre when you come to think about it. And they're winning tonight. So, I mean, listen, they just swept the Yankees in a 4-game series in Toronto. Okay. Are the Blue Jays legit? Like, did you and I both, because the last time you and I were were approached with this question, we both kind of said the same thing. I don't know if I buy the Blue Jays. We really kind of thought it was Yankees or Tampa in the AL East. The Blue Jays, since that conversation, have surged into first place in the AL East. So, Dalton, are the Blue Jays for real?
Not quite still. And I think that, we have to discuss them. They're a team that has won 9 in a row. All of a sudden they're in first place, and in first place by a little bit of margin.
Yeah.
And so I think we got to give them their flowers for that. I'll talk about the positives first, which are, they've had several breakout guys this year. I mean, you talk about Addison Barger is clearly a dude. OPS plus 130. George Springer having an unbelievable season at age 35. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doing what he does. By the way, I gave out preseason Vladimir under his home runs. He's been healthy. OPS plus of 130. He's still on pace to soar under his number. Always bet these player prop unders. Alejandro Kirk's been great offensively. Bo Bichette's having a decent bounce back year. Ernie Clement being a league average offensive player is a huge win for them. And some of these other younger guys like Nathan Lukes has been really solid. So, I mean, I think offensively is where this surprise is happening for Toronto and where there's a lot to be excited about because, by the way, all of this is happening while Anthony Santander is, just not really Anthony Santander at all. And so I'm excited for them from that standpoint. I do think from a pitching side, there's a lot to be desired here that they need to address.
Yeah.
Like you look between, Barrios 3.5 ERA, he's been solid. Gausman and Bassett have both kind of looked their age. Like they've both just been sort of fine. Yeah. Bowden Francis looks like a fringe number 5 starter at best.
And they loved him, by the way, coming into the season. Bowden Francis was like their big ticket starter, like watch this kid. Yeah. And it just hasn't been a great season for him.
I think they've gotten solid results out of their bullpen, which I'm sure they feel good about. I mean, Jeff
Yeah.
Hoffman hasn't been great, but some of these other guys, Brendan Little's been a great find. Chad Green has been solid enough. Yariel Rodriguez getting it done. Braden Fisher. There's a lot to feel good about. This rotation will not win the AL East. Okay.
Mhm.
That's not to say that they can't or won't win the AL East, because what do we know about the Blue Jays in terms of what they've wanted to do over the last few years? We know they wanted to be involved on Soto. We know that they wanted to be involved on Shohei Ohtani, and some people thought Shohei Ohtani was on a plane to Toronto.
Yeah, right.
They, at every turn, have wanted to spend money and wanted to be aggressive toward winning. So I think this most recent stretch for them, if nothing else, is going to lead to a very aggressive Blue Jays team at the deadline. It's a little, they're kind of similar to the Giants to me, in the sense that they have struggled to sign free agents. And so I think they are going to come to the realization that they need to be more aggressive than others on the trade market.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these top guys that have a chance to get moved, I would look at Toronto as a dark horse. And I mean that for almost any name that could be on the trading block. Like, for example, if the Twins continue to struggle, could Byron Buxton be on his way to Toronto?
That'd be something.
Like, I mean, there are going to be some big names, especially like I'm looking at the AL Central, right? Because the Tigers have run so far out ahead. I think these teams are going to want to be offloading veterans, and I think Toronto is going to be as aggressive as anybody. So if they can shore up that rotation a bit, maybe add another stud to the lineup, well, now all of a sudden, I think there's a real chance they can cause the Yankees some problems. And yeah, Emmanuel Clase too. Tristan just commented his name. Clase should move at this point. If you can get peak value for a reliever, you should always do it. I think the same thing with Yohan Duran of the Twins. I think the Twins should move him. I was telling my buddy who works for the Twins out the other day, I'm like, you guys got to move Duran. So we'll see him and Griffin Jack.
Do you have influence in that decision? By the way,
I
you guys got to move Duran.
I definitely don't have influence, but I can yell into the void.
It'd be kind of funny if you did. Just like Yohan Duran just gets traded because Dalton Brown said so.
If he got traded, I will take credit.
Oh, 100% you take credit. The Blue Jays feel like the team that is going to trade for Luis Robert. Like, I just get, like, they feel like that's
the Come on. You know that's the Padres.
Oh, man. If it's not the Padres, it will be the Toronto Blue Jays.
I mean, look, the Padres have been heavily linked to Jarren Duran, but I just
are the Red Sox really going to move him?
I just can't see the Red Sox doing that. I just can't.
They love him in Boston.
By the way,
not even the team, fans love him in Boston.
Yeah. I don't think, especially because the Red Sox are actually playing decent baseball, I don't think they can punch their fans in the gut again like that. By the way, while we're on the topic of the Padres and the topic of Emmanuel Clase, you know the Padres are calling the Guardians and offering them their 4 top prospects. That's what the Padres do when a big reliever is available. So don't be surprised if Emmanuel Clase is a Padre.
Well, listen, they did the same thing with Tanner Scott, and they did the same thing with Jason Adam last year. Right, exactly. They you're right. They do that. Yeah, I agree with you on the Blue Jays in a sense that I think their pitching leaves a lot to be desired, right? And by name value, they have it, right? Gosman's been very good throughout his career. Chris Bassett's been very solid. Barrios has been the guy who's held their rotation, I guess, together with a relatively solid year. But they certainly need to add to that rotation if they want to make a playoff run. But I feel like they need to add something, like, because that's a team where if Barrios, Gausman, and Bassett are your 2, 3, and 4, that's pretty good. I'd live with that. But is adding Sandy Alcantara to this rotation gonna move the needle? Right? What can be had by that? Like, how much better can the rotation get at the deadline, realistically?
It's a fair question. It depends on which teams are willing to sell.
Yeah, right.
Because I think there are a lot of, I would say, 2.5 starters out there, like 2 or 3 guys,
Hmm.
which, like, I think of guys like Tanner Bybee and Merrill Kelly, and I'd put Sandy Alcantara in that category right now at best. Um, there are a lot of those guys out on the market. What I think will be interesting to see is, like, Zach Gallen has started pitching well again.
Hmm.
He could be that guy for a team. Trying to think through other names. I mean,
It's just so interesting too, because the Diamondbacks, and it's not even just in the Zach Gallen conversation. It's Eugenio Suarez, it's Josh Naylor, it's whoever else could, Merrill Kelly. It's whoever else could be had within their organization, right? They have been so adamant that they're not selling. They've been like we think we're good. We're not now. A lot can change in the next month until the trade deadline, but like as of this point, they're like, what are you talking about? Like Zach Gallen's not for sale. Eugenio Suarez is not for sale.
I think teams will say that and say that and say that until it's not true because you see them moving guys,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. And that, that's kind of where I'm at with that, where I'm like, I mean, look, for the Diamondbacks, you're under 500, you're fourth place in the West. Now, granted, they're not, they're only 5 games back of the, less than, they're what, 4.5 games back of the Giants for second place. They're very much still in the wild card conversation, but they better turn it on quick. I'll say that. We have 3 weeks till the trade deadline. And you figure, I don't know how many games they have over those 3 weeks. I'm going to call it 20 between now and the deadline. I think they need to go like 14-6 to not sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They'd have to go
or at least to not be in a position where they should sell. And,
right.
look, you're not going to. We've talked about this a lot, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But like, obviously, you're not going to trade Corbin Carroll, right? Like, but guys like Suarez and Gurriel and some of these older guys on expiring deals, you got to move them. You just have to.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. I'm like I said, I still think that question exists of how much better can the Blue Jays rotation be if the pitching market is not as fruitful as we've seen in years past. Like I don't know that there's like an acquirable ace. Like if it's not Zach Gallen and Zach Gallen is who we've known him to be, then I don't know what change that can
You know
bring.
who it could be? Who I think is like an actual acquirable ace? Seth Lugo.
Wow. So you put Seth Lugo in that sort of ilk?
I mean, he's 2.64 ERA, 108 WHIP. He's been. I mean, you look at his last 6 starts, 1 or fewer earned runs in all 6, despite facing the Dodgers, Padres, and Yankees over that stretch. Veteran guy, like he's a guy that I feel like you can trust, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
he feels steady to me.
Right. Yeah.
I think Seth Lugo is going to be one of the prized guys at the deadline. I mean, I'm trying to think of really who else, because the problem is right now you have a lot of teams, and it's this way every year, but you have a lot of teams that are kind of sitting on the cusp. Where it's hard to know, will they actually sell or not.
Would the Rangers move DeGrom?
I mean, you'd think they'd have to look at it. What is his contract like?
I don't think it's terrible, is it? I mean,
I'm sure he's getting paid a lot, but like, does he have a few years left? I actually don't know the status of it.
now I got to look. Hold on a second. Because if DeGrom, so he signed a 5-year, $185 million contract a few years ago, right? So he's got this year and he's got 2 more years left on his deal, and then he's got a club option in 28. So he's making $40 million this year. He's got $38 million for next year, $37 million in 2027, and then a club option for 20 in 2028.
Yeah, they're not moving him. There's no way.
Yeah, but I mean, what does he look like this year? He's got a 2.29
He's
in
been
18
great.
starts. He's
Yeah, but
outstanding.
I mean, they're going to demand in a trade that you pay him like he's the DeGrom of the Mets, whether fair or not, right? Because he has those years left and he's performing well right now. And they're going to argue, look, that arm's got less mileage on it because it hasn't pitched as much the last few years. I just think a team would have to blow them away in a way they're not going to get blown away for him to actually move. I mean, again, if we're talking about pitchers that are going to be on the market, nobody's going to confuse any of these Pirates guys for aces, but Mitch Keller should be on the market. Andrew Heaney, Bailey Falter. I bet all three of those guys move.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot about Mitch Keller recently. I think Mitch Keller is a hot name that's going to get moved. He might even get moved before the deadline. There's been a lot of Twitter momentum with him. So it's interesting to see where that could go. Nathan Eovaldi, I think, could go too.
I could see that. That I could see. I mean, talk about a guy that like you think about for the Blue Jays, because we were talking about the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah, right.
You think about a guy that could head up a playoff rotation. You put Eovaldi at the top of that, that could get interesting.
Yeah, because Eovaldi's not an ace, but in the playoffs he might be.
Right. I mean, think about it this way. Let's say Toronto goes nuts and they go Nathan Eovaldi, Felix Bautista, and let's just say for the hell of it, Byron Buxton.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean,
that's a ridiculous deadline. Like
it would be, but I'm just thinking,
how much would you have to get rid of? I mean, forget it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at their top 10 and say, hey, if you part with 8 of these guys, maybe you get that done, right? I don't think I'm not saying that I think it's likely that they decimate their farm system that the way they would need to do that. I look at the Giants and the Blue Jays as two teams that know that the trade market is where they have to invest. At least they should know that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was listening to Ken Rosenthal talk about it today, and it sounds like if they're in it, they're going to be all in it at the deadline. So I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, they're certainly a team that does not shy away from aggression. Like they certainly try to win. That's one thing that we could certainly say about the Blue Jays is that they definitely try to win within their means. I mean, they don't have a $350 million payroll like the Mets do, but they do put forward the effort. Nobody can deny that. All right, so let's shift our focus to here. Because I know you want to talk about this. All-Star snubs. Okay, so it is so interesting seeing like who gets upset when the All-Star rosters come out. And the interesting part about it is that I feel like most of the time the people that we get, like the players that we get upset about that get snubbed from the All-Star game usually get into the All-Star game.
Yes.
From a reserve injury sort of basis. So I'm sure some of the guys we'll talk about here will be on the All-Star team and they'll be given that spot at some point.
Almost all of them will be.
Yeah. So it is a conversation that in a week could solve itself. But Dalton, let's talk about the National League first, because I know where this is going. All-Star snubs, Dalton. Who do you think got snubbed from the All-Star game in the National League?
Yeah, so I want to have a conversation about Andy Pages here, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if you've been watching the show at all, you know that I have been screaming from the rafters that Andy Pages needs to be an All-Star. And part of it's just because, and I'll talk about this with him and my AL snub. I tend to be even more partial toward guys that struggle in April and then figure something out and become this incredible player as you approach the break. Mm-hmm. But in the case of Pages, he's done that enough that the numbers overall look great. And by the way, he's not the only guy who falls into this category. Like Juan Soto should be an All-Star. Right, I'm not saying I'm not saying Pages is the only snub. Like
that was mine, by the way.
And I won't steal your thunder on it, but he should be an All-Star. Trey Turner should be an All-Star. There are a lot of them, right? But when I look at what Pages is doing this year, just as somebody who watches him night in and night out, he's been the best defensive outfielder in baseball while batting .288 17 homers. I mean, I think he's second on the Dodgers in runs batted in behind
Yeah.
Ohtani.
Right.
Like he's been a stud on both sides of the ball. Even his base running's been like 71st percentile. Like he's been basically a 5-tool star this year. And to me, especially when it's a guy like him where this would be his first All-Star game, I really want to see that rewarded. And so, yeah, I'm disappointed. Like I really think he's going to get in, especially with Roberts being the manager. I'm very confident that he's going to get in. But I just don't think that it should have required this. I think he should already be there. So, yeah, I don't need to
I
go too crazy on
I
Paz.
I find this conversation so like difficult to have
Yeah,
because I would then have to pretend that I know what everybody's numbers look like that made the All-Star team. And I just don't.
yeah,
Like if I were to just say like, "Oh yeah, Dalton, you're 100% Andy Paz should have made it over this guy." Like I don't know. Like maybe. I don't know. So, I will say this. Andy Paz certainly has all-star worthy numbers without comparing him to anybody else, right? Um and I think the same can be said about Juan Soto, as much as it pains me to say it for how much he's hurt me this year. But um like I don't know how you have a 900 OPS and don't make the All-Star team. Like, I don't know how that's possible. And here's what I'll surmise to that. I think Juan Soto didn't make the All-Star team because for 2 months he was pretty average. Like he was pretty average. I would even say to below average for the first month and a half of the year. Like he really did not impress. And then he, turned on the Jets and started looking like the Juan Soto that we've all come to know. But I would bar a guess that that's probably why he's not in now. He will be an all-star 100%, but that's kind of where I'm going with that. I
yeah,
agree with you. Trey Turner should probably be an all-star as well. I mean, it's like I said, I just think it's a tough conversation to have just because there's only so many guys that could be on the all-star team. And I don't know if like like I don't know if Chris Bubich has been better than Joe Ryan. Like I don't like they've probably been around the same, I think, over the course of the year. But with that being said, let's talk about the American League. Um, All-star snub for the AL. We've talked about Andy Pajes, we've talked about Juan Soto, but in the American League, what do we think?
You actually just mentioned him a moment ago. For me, it's Joe Ryan. And again, it's a similar theme to Pajes. Let me just give you some numbers on Joe Ryan. 96 percentile pitching run value this season. He's just been flat out excellent. He doesn't walk anybody. He's getting a ton of swing and miss, so it looks sexy too. Like it's not like he's one of those guys just out there pitching to contact. For some context, 116 strikeouts in 104 innings, 8-4 with a 2.76 ERA, WHIP of 0.89. I mean, it's all excellent. And for me, the real clincher of why I'm so disappointed that he's not in it is he's gotten better as the year's gone along. Like 2.08 so far through 2 starts in July, 1.86 in May. He's just been so consistent this year. I mean,
Yeah,
since May 1st, he's allowed more than 3 runs once. Like
that's crazy.
he's gone at least 5 innings in every single outing all season. Like
Yeah,
that to me is so valuable in 2025.
yeah,
Like when
so
he
good.
takes the mound, your bullpen's not going to be needed in the second inning or third inning, right? Like even there are guys on the All-Star team right now who are very deserving All-Stars who can't say that. And so to me, especially for a Twins team that like has so desperately needed what Joe Ryan has given them this year, and given the fact that it would be his first All-Star game, I'm really disappointed to see that he isn't on the All-Star staff. I think it's a big miss.
Yeah. So let's have this conversation then. Are you a fan voting guy or no?
Um, I I have mixed feelings on it. Like, I think the way I think it should work is I think the fans should be given a number, like a limited number of options that are chosen by baseball people,
Hmm.
and that are based on like actual, like, hey, here's what the guys did this year. And then I think the fans should be given a like I don't hate the way they did it, where it's like, hey, you hear your finalists, now vote on them again. I didn't hate that, but um, I also understand why fan engagement's important. Like,
Well, that's the that's the thing, right? So like I, I agree with you in the sense of like they need to like limit the guys that you can vote on. Like I don't know that you should be voting for like the starter for the White Sox who's hitting 172.
I mean, and that's how you ended up with like Alcides Escobar in the All Star game back in like 2014, right? Like when the
Right.
Royals were just stuffing the ballot. Like we've seen that have a negative effect.
Hmm. That's what right. So the other conversation I want to have is, and this goes back to the National League. Should Freddie Freeman be starting over Pete Alonso?
It's a good question. I think it goes back to like I think a lot of these things end up being based more on April and May than
Hmm.
they do on June and July, right? Um, I mean, Freddie Freeman is a deserving All Star first baseman starter.
A hundred
Is
percent.
is he deserving over Pete Alonso? I think it's a fair question. I'm pulling them both up on Baseball Savant right now. Um, like obviously, like Freeman right now at 305. That 305 is the result of him going ice cold for a lot of June. I mean, he was batting close to 350 when June started. Um, that being said, like he's been excellent. So you're gonna get no argument from me with it.
Hmm.
Um, Pete Alonso twice as many homers, still batting 287. I mean, this the best year of Pete's career? Probably is, right?
I think it undoubtedly is.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
outside of, I mean, you could make the argument that his rookie year was better.
yeah,
His
let
rookie
me
year was ridiculous. He had 53 home runs his rookie year.
yeah, I actually look. I mean, if I'm the one making the vote, I'd probably put Alonso in over Freeman. I'm gonna share my screen real quick because I want to show. Um, I got to show this Baseball Savant page. Just take a look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole lot of
I
red.
mean, 98, 95, 99, 98, 99, 96, 90, 96. I mean, that's the dude's just squaring the ball up. I also adore the 96th percentile batting run value while just running the bases and fielding terribly. It is so just big donkey of a player coded in a way that I really appreciate,
That is funny.
and in a way that is just so Pete Alonso. Also, Pete, what are you doing, man? Like skipping out on the Derby? Like you're the Derby guy. It should be in his contract that he's required to
Yeah,
win the
but
Derby.
I mean, how many times has he done it?
I
How many
don't
times has he done it? He's won it twice,
I don't
but
care. Nobody takes it as seriously as he does, and so
oh
he
my
needs to
god,
be in it every year.
do you remember? Do you remember the Derby where he was like in what was he? He was in like the clubhouse. He was in the tunnel or something, like meditating, like full blown, like Zen, full out. And then after he lost, he's like, "I need to take a break." Like like he was so upset that he lost the dirt. It was insane. I'd never seen
I'm
anything like it.
sorry, Pete. You don't need a break from something that's once a year. Get over it and get out there and hit some dingers.
Yeah. Well, listen, Pete Alonso. I will say this: it is Pete Alonso has thoroughly impressed me this year because there were
Yeah.
Met people that didn't want him back. Like they were looking
Oh,
at
I
the
know.
number, they were looking at the number that he wanted in free agency, and they were saying, "There's no shot that we're giving." And I forget what he was at. He was asking for like 120 million or something. And I'm like, well, listen, for Pete Alonso, like he's gonna hit 35 bombs a year. Like, I feel like that's not too expensive. And they didn't want to give it to him. And now, I gotta be honest with you. I feel like he's kind of like saying F you to a lot of the people that didn't want him back. Like, honestly, he's having such a good year. And I don't even like him that much, but I'm happy that he's kind of, sticking it to the people that didn't think he could.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. There were a lot of doubters, and athletes love silencing doubters.
They certainly do. They certainly do. Let's talk about the Derby, Dalton, because actually, you know what? Before we do that, um, let's go to, we talked about snubs. Now let's talk about guys that we're excited to see in the All-Star game. So, who are some names that stick out to you of guys that you're happy to see in this year's All-Star game?
So I always, for this, I like to look at first timers. Like that to me is the most exciting kind of all-star, somebody who hasn't been there before
Right.
and is excited to be there. So I'll give you one from each league. One of them, James Wood. I think this will be the first of many all-star appearances for him. Well deserved. That guy is a problem. And I'm really happy that he's in it. I cannot wait to watch him try to hit opposite field home runs in the Derby.
Yeah.
I think he has next to no shot of winning it unless he decides to just go outside of himself and pull the ball, which he could.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited for James Wood. Very deserving. Pete Crow Armstrong is a fun one. Another really cool one in the National League, and then I'll go over to the American, is Matthew Boyd. First All-Star appearance. He's been in the league forever. You could tell on Sunday Night Baseball how much it meant to him, and then for him to come out and pitch that well was really cool. So, excited for all of those guys. Love it for the first timers in general. Looking over to the American League, Chris Bubich, really cool story. Guy that's been in Kansas City since they were worst in the league bad. Now they are mediocre, but they're a team that I think had playoff aspirations this year and probably does moving forward. And it's been cool to see him stick it out through some bad teams and now be a real strong contributor for them. So excited for him. Obviously, the Cal Raleigh season, the dream season for him, has been quite a sight to behold. Does he become the second catcher to hit from both sides of the plate in the home run derby, following in Adley Rutschman's footsteps? And then, I love seeing a guy like Jacob Wilson in it. And it's really cool that it's really cool that I think he's going to start, right? Really excited to see him in it too. Like just an old school slap dick type of hitter. It's a fun departure from the kind of player that you're going to see for the most part of the All-Star game. So there's kind of a short laundry list of guys that I'm really excited about. And I know we're going to get to the Derby in a minute. This is as excited as I've been for a home run derby in a while. There's some fun names in it.
Yeah. Just turn the volume off. Just turn the volume off for the Derby. There's two guys I want to bring up. Because I have an AL guy and an NL guy. I think Javi Baez being in the All-Star game is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, he was so bad for so long, by the way. It just felt like he's been awful for like 4 years. Like it's been a long while since Javi Baez has actually been good. And man, has he turned it around. Now he's like still sub 800 OPS, but like compared to what he's hitting 280, which is beyond what I thought was even possible. Like people thought he'd hit 180 and now he's hitting 280. Like it is unbelievable for that. And he's a legitimate contributing factor to arguably the best team in baseball. Like that is just a cool thing for that from that perspective. The NL guy for me is Hunter Goodman. Like that is, first of all, Hunter Goodman's got a future. That kid's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But to play for a team as miserable as the Rockies and still put up pretty solid numbers, 832 OPS, 16 bombs, 15 RBIs. Like I give the kid a lot of credit. Like I think that's pretty cool. You get rewarded. I kind of feel the same thing about Shane Smith in Chicago. And it's like Shane Smith has not been like super duper this year. Let's not pretend that, but
his last few starts have been a disaster too.
Like, let's not pretend that. But again, to play for his team is miserable as that. I give you a lot of credit for putting up all-star-ish numbers in that respect. I think Hunter Goodman deserves a lot of credit in that respect.
Yeah. So Shane Smith, by the way, two comments there. Number one, I love the rule that every team has to have one representative.
Yeah, I agree. I
It
love
is
that too.
one of the best things in baseball. Um, I just think it feels so perfect. So never change that. Also thrilled they're going back to wearing the home and away uniforms this year for that game. I think it's such a better look. So
Great.
a
Yep.
couple positive things there. Fun thing was Shane Smith. So Shane Smith, he was the first overall pick in the Rule 5 draft last year from the White Sox. For those that don't know, these are players that if you're going to pick a player in the Rule 5 draft from another team, you have to keep them on your roster all year. These are usually kind of quad A fringe major leaguers. They don't often do a whole lot. He's the first rookie Rule 5 pick to make the MLB draft since who did it in 2006? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh God. No.
Dan Ugla.
Really?
Yeah. What if like
Dan.
what a fun twosome of guys. But that's the
Wow.
beauty of the Rule 5, right? I mean, these are guys that were kind of just left for trash scraps, right? From their former teams that
Yeah.
end up making an all-star team elsewhere. And even though Shane Smith has kind of struggled lately, it's still pretty cool.
It is.
And again, right, like Mike, I talked about this a little bit at the Hall of Fame too. I prefer so much to talk about the positive sides of these things, like to talk
Mhm.
about the guys who make the Hall of Fame and how cool it is for them rather than like debating the merits of it. I kind of have that feeling with the All-Star game a lot too. Like I'm okay with the rosters being huge and I'm okay with like maybe a couple more guys getting in that should. Like what a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree. Um, Dan Ugla. That's so crazy. That's that. What a blast from the past that is.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
Forearm himself.
oh my God. All right, let's touch on the Derby a little bit. Um, so who do we have so far? So it is we know we have Cal Raleigh, we have Ronald Acuna, we have James Wood, Byron Buxton, and O'Neill Cruz. So that's a pretty solid list. That's a pretty solid list to start the Derby. We still got what? They still got to get three more guys in. Hopefully it's not like, like Kevin Biggio and, like
Honestly, add Kevin Biggio to the Derby.
I need to hear the reasoning behind that, by the way. I have
Because
to.
it would, I mean, there's just no reason for him to be like that. I don't know how you came up with that name, but like, I think it would be really funny if like you get 7 Derby participants who are all like big mashers, and then
And here
they
comes
just pull a
Kevin.
name out of the hat for the last one,
Just
and
here
it's
comes
just like
Kevin
some
Biggio.
random dude, like some random quad A guy. Like let's put Yorbeat Vivas in the Derby, like just.
Your beat Vivas. I love
Former
that.
Dodger farmhand traded for who was he traded for? Was it Tommy Canley? I think maybe in that deal. Something.
No, it was ooh, who did we trade to the Dodgers? It was, I don't know, was he part of like the Matt Gage deal or something like that? I don't remember.
I don't know.
It had to be something like that. Maybe Caleb Ferguson. No, it wasn't Caleb Ferguson. It was something else. But I'll have to look it up for the end of the show, by the way. But yeah, so Derby time. Um, who's going to be the Appalachian State this year in the, in the college football playoff? So predictions for the Derby. What do we think, Dalton?
So, and I have an observation and a prediction. My observation is Aaron Judge needs to join this Derby so it can be the highest combined height in any Derby ever.
That would be cool.
Between Ellie De La Cruz, O'Neill Cruz, James Wood, these are some tall drinks of water in this Derby, which is fun. You get to watch a bunch of Paul Bunyan's out there hitting homers. That being said, Byron Buxton is going to win the Derby.
Wow. Okay.
And Byron Buxton should be an AL All-Star starter. Byron Buxton has been unbelievable. Like, just ridiculous, and especially lately. But, like, I just don't – I mean, look, I get it. You look at the numbers on the year overall, the 270 doesn't jump off the page at you, but 20 bombs, and it feels like he's hitting one every night right now.
Right.
He is the best base running – he's the most valuable base runner in baseball. 95th percentile hitting run value. He's been unbelievable, and he's been healthy most of the year. I, for one, I'm not only really excited that he is in the All-Star game and getting his flowers in his home state of Georgia. I love that he's going to be in the Derby. This is, I mean, I'm rooting for Byron Buxton major. Like, I just can't wait to watch it. So, um, I think Byron Buxton is a guy that just has an easy stroke, and yeah, I don't know, man. This is not like a super scientific thing to predict. He's just red hot right now. He's hitting a ton of homers. He's in his home state. I think he's going to be really amped up. Byron Buxton wins.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
Who you got?
I so badly want to take O'Neal Cruz, but I just have a feeling about Ronald Acuna. I have a feeling about Ronald Acuna. I don't know. It's just, you want to talk about smooth strokes, dude? Like, Ronald Acuna's
about this
up
field,
there.
Mike. I mean,
Yeah.
you have the Yetis, right, with James Wood, O'Neal Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz. You have Ronald Acuna in Atlanta. You have Big Dumper with his 35 homers hitting home runs from both sides of the plate.
Ellie De La Cruz is in it?
Is he not?
I didn't think he was.
Oh, I might have that wrong. Oh, man, that's a bummer.
I don't think Ellie De La Cruz is. I thought we just had the 5.
He declined the invitation. My bad. Well, I'm still excited to watch O'Neal Cruz and James Wood hit homers. Those are some big boys. So, but still, Mike, look at this field of 5: Acuna, Big Dumper, O'Neal Cruz hitting balls 138 miles an hour off the bat, James Wood, Byron Buxton, his home state of Georgia, healthy, hitting dingers.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your wish list for the last 3 guys? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Well, I would say Aaron Judge, obviously. Ellie De La Cruz would be so fun. Ellie De La Cruz would be so fun because, like, I don't know. I'm into the whole like hit homers and hit homers far sort of deal when it comes to the Derby. So I want like some 500-foot capable guys. Yeah, you really put me on the spot. Okay.
You want me to go first with some names? What do you think about it?
I mean, Ohtani would be such a fun watch because I think Ohtani could probably hit the ball 600 feet and nobody would know it. Like, yeah, but yeah, go ahead, rattle off a few.
So I think like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are the obvious answers. Like I think everybody would like to see the two of them in the Derby.
Yeah,
they're just not going to do it. So I'm going to go off the board a little bit here. I would love to see Junior Caminero in the Derby.
Okay.
Because he is going to swing as hard as he possibly can and probably fall over, but hit the ball 500 feet. And I'd love to watch it. I think Spencer Torkelson is a guy that in the Derby could thrive, where he just has to lock in on one swing the whole time. And he's got 21 homers this year. He's hitting well. He's earned it. I could see Joe Adele ending up in the Derby.
Jorge Soler. Let's get him in 700-foot bombs.
And you know who else for me is somebody who I think deserves it, would take it seriously, would be a really underrated personality in the Derby. Because like we could talk about Kyle Schwarber, right? He's done it a million times, whatever. Dude, give me Eugenio Suarez. Like 28 bombs, incredibly well-liked guy. I think he'd hit a bunch, so I'd love to see him. And then honorable mention for me, Seiya Suzuki. I think he'd be a good one as well.
Yeah, he would be good. I'd love to, you know who I'd love to see as almost like, not like a comeback thing, but like remind everybody how good he is? Mike Trout. Get Mike Trout in there and be like, watch this, James Wood. And just like the old guy still got it. You know, I'd love to see that too. Oh, yeah. That would be fun. All right. Let's give you a score update real quick before we get into the hot corner. Right now, the Yankees have taken the lead over the Mariners. It's 1-0. They're in the top of the 6th. That's in the Bronx. 5-2 Orioles lead over the Mets. They're heading into the 7th. The Marlins have a 10-1 lead over the Reds in Cincinnati. That's in the bottom of the 7th as well. The Red Sox right now with a 9-0 lead over Colorado in the bottom of the 7th. That is in Boston. The Blue Jays right now with a 5-0 lead over the White Sox in Chicago. That's in the top of the 5th. Twins with a 2-0 lead over the Cubs. That's bottom of the 6th. That's in Minnesota. Pittsburgh with a 2-1 lead over the Royals. They're heading into the bottom of the 7th. The Brewers have taken the lead on the Dodgers. They are up 2-1 in Milwaukee in the top of the 6th. The Guardians have a 5-1 lead over the Astros in Houston. They're in the bottom of the 3rd. Nationals and Cardinals, they are still delayed, but a little later tonight. I forgot to mention this. Tigers and Rays went final. Tigers with the win 4-2 over Tampa in Detroit. The Rangers and Angels from Anaheim, that's Eovaldi and Soriano on the bump there for tonight. Diamondbacks and Padres in San Diego, Merrill Kelly, Nick Pivetta on the bump for that. Phillies and Giants, it is Taijuan Walker and Robbie Ray in San Francisco. And then the Braves and the A's, Jeffrey Springs for the Athletics and Didier Fuentes on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. All right, Dalton, what do we have for Hot Corner?
Well, I want to comment. A couple of these results are kind of surprising. I mean, the Guardians jumping all over Hunter Brown. Nobody's done that in a while. So definitely surprised by that result.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to mention, how about the Fish, Mike? How about those Marlins? That's all. That's all I really want. That's all I'm going to say about them is just how
41. Listen, 41 and 48. Like,
if I told a Marlins fan in February that on July 8th they would be 2 games ahead of Atlanta in the AL East, or excuse me, the NL East, and they would be tied with the Cleveland Guardians record-wise, you think they'd take it?
Oh yeah. There's no shot that they expected that. Who did they beat up on today? I got to look.
They've been hot, man.
Nick Martinez. Nick Martinez gave up 10 earned. In 7 hits, 10 earned in 5 innings today.
And Eury Perez looking nasty again too, which I love seeing that guy back out there pitching. He looks great.
Oh God, me too. He's fantastic.
As far as Hot Corner tonight, I think I'm going to keep it just kind of simple here. I like Texas. I think this is a Texas team that's like desperate to prove something before the All-Star break and the deadline. And Nate Eovaldi back on the bump tonight against Anaheim. Eovaldi's got a 1.75 ERA, and we're actually getting Texas as a dog here. I don't really get that. Like I get that Jose Soriano has been, I think, a lot better than people think, but I don't know, man. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Give me the Rangers, the Eovaldi.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
By the way, I think I've won like 3 or 4 in a row. So how about that?
Yeah, see? That's why people need to listen. That's why people need to tune in. It's free money. Free money. All right. That does it for us. We've run a little bit long today. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. It was great to have you every Monday. Today was Tuesday, but it's every Monday, 8 o'clock
Eastern.
Eastern.
We're going to skip next week so you guys can all watch the Derby instead of watching us.
I would imagine too. I'm going to be out of town anyway, so we're not going to be on next week anyway. But so we'll see you in 2 weeks, but usually every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern, only here on the Grid. Again, thanks for everybody that comments, everybody that tunes in. We'll see you next time.